Hello, today I'm going to be making cabbage roll soup. And so the first thing you do is you cut a piece of cabbage, a head of cabbage in half, and then you remove this ugly, really hard piece at the bottom of each half, okay? Because these really don't go in the soup. There's really no use for them. Now let's go through all the ingredients. We're going to need 2 pounds of ground beef. Alright, we're going to need a large onion, all chopped up. We're going to need 1.5 cups of tomato juice, okay? And we're going to need 3 tablespoons of tomato paste, which is here. Alright? And we're going to need 2 14-ounce cans of diced tomatoes. And then I'm going to use the can, fill it with water, I think like 3 times, to add water to this recipe. And then you need 3 cloves of garlic. Okay, fresh garlic preferably. You can use the chopped garlic in a jar, but this is just going to give you a better flavor. And you want to mince it up as fine as you can. And then there is 3 beef bouillon cubes in this. And these are great because then you don't have to buy beef broth, and you can always make do with the bouillon cubes. And then 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, which it can be any kind. I use this kind. And here I have chopped that entire head of cabbage, and I've put it in this large stock pot here. And so now I'm ready to get started on browning the ground beef. Okay, I've got the ground beef almost done, and I've added some onions to soften the onions. And once they start getting translucent, about the last 2 minutes, I'm going to add the garlic. You don't want to add the garlic too soon because you don't want to burn the garlic. Burnt garlic tastes terrible. It'll ruin your recipe. So like I said, I'm just going to give these a couple of minutes in the frying pan, and I'll be right back. Okay, it's time to start putting this together. Of course, I have the cabbage in there, now the ground beef, the onions, and the garlic. Okay, and this is the tomato juice, 1 1/2 cups. And this is the, here we go, tomato paste. That's 3 tablespoons. Alright. And we got the Worcestershire sauce. That's 2 teaspoons. Okay. And then the beef bouillon, 3 cubes. Okay. And 2 cans of tomatoes. That's diced tomatoes. 14-ounce cans. 2 of them. There we go. I know this is so hard. I'm about to work myself to death. Haha. Okay. And then we have about 1 1/4 quarts of water, which is like 3 of the diced tomato cans. So you can use the cans to do this, or you can measure it out however you want. And then I'm going to give that a stir, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. Okay, I've got this almost to a boil, and I've decided that it's just not enough liquid for me, so I'm going to add some liquid, okay, to make it soupier. I'm going to add a cup of water, and I'm going to add a cup of tomato juice. And as always, the salting and peppering comes at the end. I don't do that until the dish is completely cooked. Okay, I've brought the mixture to a boil now, and so it's time to put a lid on it and turn it down all the way to low. And then I'm going to check it about every 10 minutes. There you go. And that's on low. Okay, I've been boiling this now for about 40 minutes on low. Well, first I brought it to a boil, and then I put it on low. And so now I'm going to test to see if the cabbage is tender or not. And what I like to do is I like to take one of these pieces that has like, that has like a little hard piece on it, like a little spine or whatever you want to call it. And if this is tender, then I know that the rest of it is tender. Okay, after about 45 minutes, the cabbage is a lot more tender. It's almost done. And so now it's time to add the rice. Now I use this Success Bull and Bag Jasmine rice. Okay, and it's like a 10-minute rice. And I just cut a hole in the top of the bag, right? And I just dump it in there. Just like so, alright? And then I'm going to give this another 10 minutes on low. And as you can tell, on low, on my stove, it's still a gentle boil. The lowest setting on my stove is warm, and so low is like right above that. So that's why you need to cover this and come back and check it every like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Give it a stir and see where it is. You don't want to overcook it. You don't want it burning and sticking to the bottom of your pot or whatever. So, you know, you just have to keep an eye on it. Now I'm going to let this rice cook for 10 minutes. I'm going to put the lid back on, and then I'm going to come back and test it again. While all that's going on, it's time to make garlic bread. I like to use this Cloves, okay, because it actually has real butter, all right? And a lot of these, they'll say real garlic and whatnot, but it'll have like margarine or something in it. And you know what I say about margarine. Margarine is blasphemy. So if you can find this Cloves garlic bread, that is the way to go. And here it is, butter, right there on the ingredients list. So that is why I choose this bread. It makes all the difference in flavor. So it's been about 8 minutes. It doesn't look like the rice is quite done yet. By the way, if you want to reduce the carbohydrate in this recipe, you can use cauliflower rice instead of regular rice. Okay, so in the beginning I brought this mixture to a boil, then I turned it down on low, which is the second lowest setting on my particular stove, and I covered it, and about 45 minutes later the cabbage was almost perfectly tender, and so at that point I added 10-minute rice, Success rice, whatever you want to call it. I added 1 bag. If you want more rice, you can add more. Like I said, you can also use cauliflower rice if you want to reduce the carbohydrate in the recipe. And now it's time for the salt and pepper. And so I'm going to do half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm going to start with 1 teaspoon of salt. Alright, and this is pink Himalayan salt. I don't know if you can see it. But I'm going to start with that and see how that goes before I add any more. And this is the salt that I usually like to use, the Morton Pink Himalayan fine salt. So I'm going to give this a taste and see if a teaspoon is enough to season this as far as the salt goes. Okay, I only used 1 teaspoon of salt because that turned out to be quite enough. It tastes just perfect to me. It doesn't need any more. And you have to remember there's sodium in the canned foods that you use in this recipe. And so that's of course going to add salt, and also the bouillon cubes are going to add salt. And as this boils down, the liquid gets more concentrated, it gets thicker, and so that also adds to the salt factor. So that's why I say it's best to add it at the end, just barely a baseline of salt, you know, so that people can season it to their own liking. And so now I'm going to serve this up with some garlic bread, and it's going to be great. So now it's time to serve it up. Alright, I've got my little tray and my bowl and my garlic bread, and so I'm going to probably put a couple of ladles down, and you could add some kind of cheese if you wanted to. You could also probably cut this recipe in half and put it in a Crock-Pot. Okay, I have never tried that. It seems like there's too much of this to go in a Crock-Pot, so you would definitely probably have to cut the recipe in half. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you try the recipe. Thanks and have a great day.